Hi, it's Martin from RCIRCLE. How you doing? Today I'm with Tristan from VONQ. I'm going to get him to talk a little bit about what he's been up to for the last few months. Tristan, do you want to say hello?
Hello, everybody.
That's very good, very insightful. We haven't spoken for a while, so I think what I was trying to do with a group of people, if other viewers have seen the other videos, if you haven't, there's more videos of these things. How's it been? What's it been like for the last 6 months or whatever we now call? In my time, it's the dark times, particularly because I live in the north and it's always dark. Tell us what you've been up to, and maybe then talk about what VONQ could think about is going to happen in the future.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think it's been a strange time for everybody, of course. I actually went to the office because in Holland it's not full lockdown at the minute. We're kind of managing like some kind of partial lockdown. And so I went to the office over there and I tried to figure out even just what day it was. When you're working from home, you're kind of in this time warp where
Well, every day looks the same.
you have this routine of getting up, working, going to the gym, and then kind of repeating with no other social activities. So it's been challenging for everyone at VONQ, and it's particularly in sales for a recruitment technology company. I think it's been a really interesting year for a number of reasons, which we can obviously get into. But personally, I think it's been challenging time, but also a good period over the last few months to really figure out some things as a company, personally as well. And I think I'm taking a lot of the positives of the last few months along with the negatives, of course, and just looking forward to next year, really.
You touched on it there. I mean, from a business perspective, a lot of organisations have, I hate to use the word, they've pivoted. VONQ don't appear to have done that. It seems to be doing what you've always done. Have you had to position that differently though when you're having a sales conversation with a potential client? Have you changed your approach purely because it is all online, or is it usual? And okay, it's up to you how honest you want to be. So we're always conscious when I ask people this. Some people are brutally honest and it is being crap, and others are like, oh yeah, it's amazing. I'm just here's my whatever.
Yeah, the thing is, right, when these kind of things happen, and they have happened in the past, advertising is the first thing that always shuts down, right? Even consumer marketing, it's always budgets are frozen, advertising's on hold, and there's this instant big hit when it comes to spend. So obviously, as an advertising company, we took a big hit in those months where companies just froze. I think a lot of companies did in other sectors as well, and what we're seeing now is, there has been this increase in companies beginning to advertise their jobs online, beginning to start their campaigns again, but with a different approach. So there's still this like wave of uncertainty in the air of what companies are going to be hiring next year. Who are companies? What's the hiring demand going to be? Is there going to be another lockdown? So companies are now thinking, all right, wow, we now need to be way more strategic with how we advertise our jobs. We need to, not commit too much to the traditional way of working with advertising, which, you look at your job boards for the year, how many credits you're going to be using, what is your hiring demand. Let's get the best deal up front at the start of the year and just roll that out across the year. Cool. What we're seeing now is companies have no idea what their hiring demand is going to be for next year. So I'm thinking we do need to start advertising. So what is this? Where is the solution for that? And, that's where we were always trying to place ourselves as a company was, a technology to help companies better advertise their jobs online in a new and modern way without the contracts directly, using performance-based advertising, using more modern CPC methods, social media, Google advertising. These are all ways where, you can really easily, turn the switch on, turn the switch off. But there were so many companies out there that were still in this old way of working of,
no, they're stuck in what they always knew, didn't they? And maybe that is the lesson that for some organizations now is the time to go and try that new thing purely because they've had to. Have you got any view of this sort of the sort of supply and demand? Because obviously, as you say, advertising plummeted. I keep reading various reports about where job ads, for example, are in some cases. In the UK, they haven't returned back to normal yet. I've been talking to lots of people in Denmark. They're there or thereabouts how they were sort of pre-March in terms of volume. And I wondered though if the audience had changed, because the audience primarily was said in something, well, it's not even true. A lot of the audience now sat at home, aren't they? So if you've been working from home for the last 6 months and before you sat in an office, I kind of think it's an awful lot more easy to have a cheeky look at more job ads than you would have done anyway, because you're just maybe looking over your shoulder, to be really honest.
Yeah.
Sort of suggest the volumes are up, even though the sort of maybe the number of jobs are down. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I get what you mean. And I think the important thing to realize now is the labor market right now is completely different to what it was before.
Yeah.
And that's also had a big impact on company strategies, because all of a sudden they're dealing with a much higher increase in unemployment. So most of the jobs where, you would use job advertisements in the past are now not necessary, because, for instance, more lower skilled types of jobs are getting the amount of applications organically because of the market right now. And that was a big problem when it first happened, because a lot of companies were used to having to advertise these jobs online to get the amount of applicants they need. And then all of a sudden, well, no, don't place any advertisements online because we're getting way too many applications already.
Yeah, sure.
So they're also stuck with those ads that they thought they needed. And now they're realizing, oh, well, that wasn't a smart decision at the start of the year. Let's not make that mistake again. Yeah. But on the other hand, companies are still struggling with the hard to fill roles, because those are, even harder than before to attract talent, because those are the people that are now not taking a risk in changing jobs. So that's where it becomes interesting when it comes to advertising. When it comes to, most of the business as usual roles, it's just about managing inflow of applicants and giving a good candidate experience. And most of the focus for advertising goes on those hard to fill roles, which was still the case before COVID. Now just more of all right, well, how do we really change this person and explain to them that they should take this risk at this uncertain time to join a new company?
Yeah, I think it's a combination. I've said, having obviously talked to people, I think it's a combination of the security of current employment gives me. I work for this employer, they've not fired me, and they're not going to furlough me, they're not going to do this to me, I'll stay with them. A bit of mobility as well. I do a lot of work with tech companies. There's an awful lot of transition around Europe, and that's instantly gone away as well. If I'm German, I live in Germany, I'm staying in Germany right now, whereas before they'd look at Denmark or Sweden or wherever else. It didn't really matter. So we've got a less mobile workforce. You've got this double whammy. So does that mean that the organisations that are spending money still, they've got those hard to fill roles, can't even say it. Does that mean they've come to you to say, give us something new, be whizzy, help solve this problem? And I guess, being really honest, how have you gone about that? How is VONQ doing that? And what, is there some success there? Or is it just is it still too early to tell, because given it's only a 6-month window still?
Yeah, so the two things we're getting right now from customers is that on the one hand is, all right, well, we need to reduce our contracts with job boards next year because we don't want to work that way anymore. So how can we work with you in a more flexible way? So for the just the standard job postings, and that's something we do with our platform, which gives them access to all the different job boards that are out there without having any direct contracts. So that, helps in that one aspect. But when it comes to the hard to fill roles, it's always important to take a more strategic look at how you're attracting those kind of candidates, because obviously these people are also not on job boards, but they are sitting at home, they are online, they are on different platforms. So when we look at those kind of challenges, we're really thinking about how can we influence these people across social media, across channels like Reddit, on community-focused websites like Stack Overflow, where these people are going on a daily basis, not to find jobs, but will absorb information on these channels.
Yeah.
The one challenge with that right now is we know where these people are online. We know how to reach them for advertising. But what content do you use to put in front of these people? I mean, you can't advertise your office right now because nobody's in them.
Well, I was going to ask about, I was going to say, because to your point, because that's when you touched before we started actually videoing, we're talking about going to the office and how strange that is. I had this bizarre conversation with somebody the other day about, how, what a great opportunity this was, getting rid of offices, isn't it great? Everyone works from home, fantastic. And it's sort of, well, it isn't, because it depends if I'm sitting on my sofa, I've got space and I've got a desk over there and I've got space to go and work from home really easily. Not everybody has that. But how do we differentiate this call? So we're on Zoom. We talked about you like Google Hangouts. So I work for company A and I always use Zoom, and you work for company B and you always use Google Hangouts. The only thing that's going to change when you move from one company to the other is your choice of video provider.
Yeah.
The rest of it's the same. And I wonder if, it's probably too early to tell, but organizations have got to do something, haven't they? So that to me, they're always selling, look at our great office, Google, the king of, look at all the free food, look at the slides, look at the thing, look at this, and we do yoga on the roof, we do this and that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Suddenly it's a level playing field. You and I are as good as Google right now, because I assume you've got, yoga on your roof, I have, and it's the same stuff.
Yeah, it's really challenging because like a lot of companies really sold candidates on, that feeling when you go into the office and you meet people, you strike up a good relationship, you see yourself, working in that environment. And a lot of people were sold on that alone. And now companies don't have that as a USP. So they have to think of, what are the other ways of doing that? And then you've got to look at, the basics, all right. So salary, benefits, perks, that kind of stuff, which, is obviously important. Other than that, you've got your company purpose. So I think there's a lot of change in, companies right now. There's a lot of companies that are, moving in different directions. And I think that's also a big thing right now is, can you sell people on what you're doing as a company rather than just, your Friday drinks or your environment. So, but that's really difficult because, you don't have that. How do you also explain that without being able to create content when everyone's at home? So it's been
if you crack that, not being funny, definitely with the VONQ, if you crack that, that's the secret, I think, right now, is how companies have been doing lots of navel gazing for the last chunk of time, really about purpose, about Simon Sinek saying, this is purpose is important. Mm-hmm. Purpose is important, but suddenly it's become more important because, as you say, I think there's an awful lot of smoke and mirrors about what purpose was, and it got confused with being in the office and culture as well. I think that's the other thing as well. It kicks in there, doesn't it? I won't name them, but I did some work about 2 years ago for a company where they had the Friday drinks trolley. They had yoga on the roof every day. There was a 5-a-side football team that played twice a week. Avocados got delivered every morning in huge wooden crates, along with lots of granary bread and lemons and chili flakes. And this was like, this is it. We provide and we do this and we do this and do that. And of course, that's all just disappeared. Mm-hmm. The idea of they should do a bring your dog to work thing as well. And it's all very important to culture. I'd love to go back to them now. I'm actually give them a call and just say, now you've got an empty office and everybody's just sat at home. How are you any different to anybody else?
I think a lot of candidates will be, or a lot of employees will also be feeling that right now. They've lost a lot of those things as well. So there's a lot of people that are like 6 months, 7 months into this right now thinking, I'm kind of done. I'm deflated a bit. We've been doing the same thing for 6, 7 months now. And maybe your company hasn't made you feel, adapted to it too well. But then they've got the other side of it where they're thinking, well, I'm not going to move to a new company now because of the risk, even though I'm not happy with how the company I'm working for has made the transition to remote. I don't feel like I'm getting any of that, of what I used to get when we were in the offices. So that's also an opportunity for companies to, if you can convince employees to take that risk and switch. I think there's a lot of talent on the market right now that are ready to move to a new company because of what's happened. It's just some people may be a little bit nervous about taking the risk and moving roles right now. So I think if the message companies can put out is a bit of reassurance in managing that risk, I think it's a good opportunity for companies to find good talent.
You again, this isn't a particularly VONQ thing, so you think maybe about where do you stand on salaries? There's lots of debate, isn't there, about if you're going to work remotely, should I just pay you for the job? So if I'm paying you £10 a year, do I really care where you're taxed and where you live? And there's a huge debate there, isn't there? I suspect people like me live in the north of the UK are going, yeah, I've been asking that for years. That's why it means I have to stop. I don't have to go to London now to earn the money that I used to earn. You can just pay me for the time that you're going to pay me for. And I tell you what, actually, we'll give you a bit of discount because I'm happy that I don't have to travel to London anymore.
Yeah, well, it's a really interesting topic because it was the whole reason that companies would outsource a lot of work to foreign countries, right?
Yeah,
because of the costs of labor and developers in Eastern Europe. That was the whole move, and as an example. And what happens when everybody starts demanding the same salaries, because it doesn't matter if you're doing the work wherever you are, you'll have people like, I know I've spoken to a lot of people who are London based that are now moving out of London.
Yep.
People are just thinking, why were we living like this? Why were we living in the most expensive?
Because it was no other way to earn the money. To earn the money, you had to work in London.
Yeah, but you're also living in the most expensive circle in a circle of the world. So it was kind of a backwards way of working, and there is a shift in mentality now. So I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know if we might be seeing the downfall of moving labor to cheaper locations, but
I think it depends, isn't it? Because I use Facebook as a really bad example. So a headline is, it's great, we'll pay you to be remote, we love you to be remote, we want you to be remote. But if you don't live in San Francisco and you live in a different part of America, we're going to pay you a market rate. We're not going to pay you the same as you could earn in San Francisco. And that's the first, like, oh, hang on, the Facebook are doing that. So to me, it's like a lovely PR stunt. Awkwardly, it says, hey, we're going to do all this great stuff. But then they've also applied a local market setting. It says, if you're living in, I don't know, Arkansas, if you're earning $100,000 a year in San Francisco, you're going to be earning $60,000 a year in Arkansas. But it's Facebook. And that's the chicken and egg, isn't it? It says, when I lived in Arkansas before, I could never dream of working for Facebook because I'd have to move to San Francisco, and I couldn't afford to live in San Francisco until I got a job at Facebook. Whereas I can work for Facebook. But I'm only going to get paid what I get paid to be in Arkansas. And I think that's the thing. But then at some point, you're going to be having a chat with somebody who's remote, not in an office, but just happen to live in San Francisco, and they're earning $40,000 a year more than you, even though you're doing exactly the same job. And it's not even that. It's that moment, isn't it, that we've all been at some point in an office going, how much do you earn? Shit, really? It's that, but almost like magnified.
I just find the shift in mindset really interesting, because even I a year ago was thinking about relocating to London, moving to London because of VONQ expanding in the UK, and a lot of our customers being in the UK now. And I completely really done a 180 on that, and of kind of thinking, well, that was not really, that wouldn't have been a wise decision. Obviously, with hindsight, obviously it wouldn't have been a wise decision because we've been in lockdown. But now I'm completely on the side. No, definitely not. Not something I would consider anymore. If anything, I would be moving to, somewhere maybe even more remote, more affordable, where I can work and do what I'm doing right now.
Well, you have to go to the Caribbean, don't you? Because they've got these incentives to go and live in the Caribbean. They pay you for a year to do this and do that, and have a lovely time. Provide a lot of space for them. So,
sounds good to me.
I've got to say, if I didn't have the kids, bless them, we're like, that sounds okay. I could do it for a year, see how it goes. Also feels like this next year, what's the, give it a go. It doesn't. You can always come back.
Count me in.
Yeah, I'll send you a link at the end of this. The thing we talked about actually before we start recording, I agree with you. I wonder, but I also haven't adapted yet to how to succeed in this new online world. And I mean that from that thing that I talked about, you know, that in the olden days, the before times, I would have said, hey, Mr. Prospect, I'm on my way. I'm going to buy your coffee, buy your lunch, buy you whatever. And we're going to sit down and we'll nail it. We'll get the deal done, or we'll do whatever it is, or agree the project or whatever. And that bit has gone away because it's now a bit awkward. You know, you're sat at home. Now, whilst I could come and see you, it's crossed that weird line if I've suddenly turned up on your doorstep because you're at home. And I do know where you live, obviously. But it's a bit weird. And you can't do that. I can't do that thing. And also, more importantly, you wouldn't expect me to say, well, let's go for a coffee and let's go for lunch and let's go for drinks. Because you're going to go, well, yeah, it's not really going to happen, mine. Sorry. And I don't know how. So for me personally, I don't know how to make that transition to accept that some of the calls that I've scheduled this week will be a no-show or a last-minute cancellation. And they wouldn't have done that in the past. We would have had the meeting and we would have progressed. So I guess when you're salesy head on, how do you cope with that? Because a lot of your work was online anyway, wasn't it? And you said, yeah, you're all about being online in the first place.
Yeah.
Also, there's an element of, you know, I've seen you at enough events and shows and stuff to go, you still value face-to-face. You still need that face time. How do you work around that? And do you see that as a temporary thing, or do you think we'll all get into the swing of it eventually and never have to see each other ever again?
I think, well, I've been working remote for years, right? Because I'm based in the Netherlands. We're a Dutch company. We were looking to open up international markets. We don't have a local presence in any of these countries. So for me to go and visit a customer, you know, I have to plan a flight, a hotel. It needs to be a really planned thing. So it wasn't something I was doing a lot anyway. What I think is it depends on, you know, the product and the company, because when you've got a well-known product, like for us, it was really difficult for us we had loads of no-shows at the start when we were entering new markets because nobody knew who we was. Nobody cared about us, and people would book a meeting and just not show because they're like, well, we've never heard of you before.
It's so easy, isn't it? I just either don't turn up or hit delete or do something. I've not had to engage with it.
So at the start, when you're promoting a new product and you know, a new product and company, it's really important to have those, you know, initial contacts with people, put, you know, a face behind the company, and do these events where you can, you know, speak on stage in front of lots of people. After that, when you've actually, you know, stamped your mark on the market, you've got, you know, a position and people know who you are, the no-show rate decreases because people are actually interested. You're getting leads into the funnel that are later in the buyer cycle because they're already been warmed up by marketing efforts. You know, they're some inbound leads. So there's obviously interest there. And in that case, we're seeing no problems at all. So it all depends on where you are in your life cycle of being a company. Because I've had conversations like a few weeks ago in the US with a guy at a company actually that posted something in the Brain Food app or in the community on Facebook. Spoke with him. We were exactly what he needed. We built a really good rapport online, just having an online meeting. He's based in Portland. And it was exactly like if we were face to face. And just because we were the right solution for him at that time, there was not one no-show. It was a really quick sales process. And, you know, I think people just have to work in a different way.
Yeah, that suddenly that's brought you opportunity that you wouldn't have otherwise had because you're almost thinking, this is just the norm. This is how we are.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm conscious of the time. I always promised our viewer that we won't last forever. So I'm going to tell you, I think we're going to say goodbye, actually. I was thinking that out loud. I'm going to say thank you so much, Tristan, for joining me today. Undoubtedly, we'll definitely speak again soon. And with that, I'm going to say goodbye.
Yeah. Cheers, Martin. Good to speak to you.
Start again.